Hello and welcome to Engagement. If you are engaged or about to be engaged or getting married or planning a wedding, you came to the right place. Welcome to a special series of Engagement. So I hear it all the time, and you've probably heard it more times than not. People say, "Hey, Doug, you're a wedding officiant, celebrant, if you will, and you have a show called Engagement on YouTube and Facebook. Is it just for people that are engaged?" And I normally say no, except for this time of year when we do a series on the wedding pros that you should know. And that this series this year has expanded. It's our third year, if you can imagine, our seventh season of doing shows, but third year of doing the wedding show, introducing you to some really quality people that are wedding pros that you should know here to help you with your wedding planning. And we've made this series very concise and short in time span, but longer in interviews, so you can get a much larger, deeper look at who's out there. So I want to get right down to it. I've got two really dynamic, two very different vendors on today that I think you should know, and they're quality people. And the first one is a great photographer, a really cool dude. And don't tell him I said that. And if you do, I'll deny it. But it's John Lyons. And John is just as cool as that picture. He is a really great man, great photographer, and a great business person. And I'm going to bring him on here. We're going to have a, hey, John.
I heard all of that. That's so nice
I'm going to deny it.
Jeez.
It didn't happen. How are you doing, John?
Oh, I'm awesome, especially after that intro. Thank you.
Well, I can't tell if you're blushing or if it's the light, but we'll go with.
I'm blushing.
Ah, well, I meant every word of it, John. You are a very talented photographer, and when I show up at a wedding that I'm officiating and I see you there, after the big hug that you give me, the warm embrace just carries on through the entire ceremony because you bring some light and levity and professionalism to a wedding. And that's an important thing people need to realize, that your photographer and your officiant are really on a timeline.
Yes.
Right? So tell us how you got into the business of weddings.
The business of weddings. Oh, okay. It's funny. Like, I have always been into taking pictures from the preserving memory standpoint. Like, I'm not a shutterbug. I'm not like a camera nerd. Like, from a technical standpoint, I'm not a great technical photographer, right? So I just I've come from a graphic design background. I went to film school, so I've come from more of a storytelling aspect of it. And I just remember a great friend of mine in 2005. I really wanted to get into sports and sports photography. Certainly not sports, but sports photography. My dream was to photograph for the NFL. And he was a wedding photographer, and I just happened to be taking a lighting class because, like I said, technically I'm not a great photographer. There's so many other better people than I am. But I took this lighting class, and he was a wedding photographer, and I teased him mercilessly about being a wedding photographer. At the time, I thought it was like a low form of photography, and for a year, I teased him, and then one day, he ended up spraining his ankle and really needed help at a wedding, so he asked me. And of course, I said, "Oh yeah, sure. I'll show you a thing or two, you wedding photographer." Well, I'm telling you, it was the most fun I've ever had. I was hooked from the very first moment I walked in the door. You're with all these people, and they're so happy, and everybody's looking good, feeling good. It's like one part fashion photography, it's one part photojournalism, it's one part just managing people and managing their emotions. It's a great time, all wrapped up into one day. And I honestly, I know it sounds hokey, but I was hooked from that very, very first day. And then from that moment on, I said, forget sports for now. I'm just going into to photograph weddings. I just love I love weddings, and I loved weddings even before I photographed them. I remember when we were coming up, like we talked to my friends, "Hey, what are you doing this week?" And I said, "Oh man, I got a wedding." And all the guys would be like, "Oh, I have a wedding. Oh, drag. I got it." Like, no, man, like, I'm so excited for this thing. And then I started working weddings and getting the wedding industry. And that I think that's the key to anybody in the wedding business, whether you're a photographer, officiant, whatever you do in the business, you have to love weddings and love the business of weddings, love the people, the relationships, everything about weddings. You have to love that first, and then you can work on your craft, and then it all just will come together after that.
I think that's very true. Weddings are unique, and it takes a unique breed to be able to service them. So um, it's unique that your lighting is such was how you got started in this, taking a technical lighting course, because you use lighting very very well. I want to show a few photos of contrast and light. This one here's one of my favorites.
Oh,
You know,
thanks. Actually, that's my
that's
daughter
gorgeous.
McKenna doing the makeup too. That was just pretty awesome.
But getting the light, the shadow on the cheek, the hand, the darkness behind the hand, it's the right depth of field so that the hair is out of focus slightly and she's perfectly in focus is that's a skill.
Thank you.
Another great lighting one. I'm going to probably show a lot of the best ones right off the hop here. Is this? This is gorgeous. Is that the Distillery District in
It
Toronto?
is. Yep, that was just this past summer in the distillery, and I'll never forget that day. The dinner was running late, and I was. It's a difficult spot to get a sunset because if there's anything I
Mhm.
love is a sunset, and one thing I'm really known for is sunset. But I will tell you this: going back to that lighting course and the lighting um, uh, workshop that I did take, it was studio lighting, and that's when I decided I never wanted to do studio lighting. I wanted to be natural light photographer forever. I never wanted to do studio light. I always wanted to run with what was given to me by nature at that moment. So that's why I've just really fallen in love with sunsets and the way and I see light a little bit different because I'm not a natural photographer. I've come from, like I said, design background. So I see light a little different. I see the opportunity that the light and reflections give us. So I was a little at that wedding. I was a little annoyed because we were going to miss the sunset because of dinner, and then we went out and we just happened to catch that little glint of sun in a reflection of a building. So if you
Yeah,
look
because
quickly,
where the Distillery District is. If you've not been there, it's pretty laden with actually low rise buildings, not a lot of not a
right?
ton of skyscrapers. So that's an ideal shot. That's a winner chicken dinner shot.
Yeah, thank you. And that's what I mean about like when you roll with what nature gives you at that moment, you never know what you're going to get, right? Everything's going to be different. Um, or even, I've been to Erio. I've probably shot 200 engagement sessions out there over the last few years, but every one is just a little bit different. The time of year, the time of day, that's the way the sun hits, the what's in the air. Everything is a little bit different. And as hard as I try to recreate some iconic shots, I just that there you can't. You just have to create something new every time with the
Mhm.
light that you're given. That's what I love about this.
And it's also, I mean, that's the artist in you too, the creative juices of trying to find something different, something new, and being observant to what's around you and what's going on, so you can capture that.
Thanks.
Here's another great, beautiful use of light.
Oh, Amanda
Love that.
McGill. The sunset that was at Ambassador Golf Course, and we had the most glorious sunset for it seemed to last forever, but we were moving pretty quick, go here, go here, go there, go there.
Mhm.
The girls in the wedding party were behind us chirping away. Um, So yeah, inside secret about photos like that, like everybody comes to us and says, well, not everybody says, I don't want posed photographs. Everybody wants everything candid. Well, what a good photographer will be able to do, because no couple walks through a golf course like that.
No.
Like nobody does that. But what a good photographer will do is set up scenes and they'll direct and maybe prompt their couple, not pose them, but allow them to go into the light, you know, at their own pace, the way they walk, do it, connect to each other the way they normally do. And and then make it look like it's posed. So nobody wants
Mhm.
posed photos, but nobody does those things automatically. So you
Yeah.
have to still pose them and direct them
Yeah, it's
and
direction,
make it
right?
look
And
candid, right? That's
yeah,
I think the challenge.
that's a challenge. Here's another really great use of light. Love
Oh,
that as well.
that was Holly and Dylan at Bogies.
Nice.
Again,
Bogus is
just
a
fun,
great spot
right?
too. Yeah. And then this, I think, is the same couple as
Yeah,
before on the
we're
golf
doing
course.
that same.
Little
Yeah, so,
smoochy
that's all
smoochy.
part of a sequence, right? And
Yeah.
you kinda direct the couple, take a walk, look at each other, just kind of get all mushy and squishy to each other.
Yes, exactly. John, you've been doing this for a while. It's not more than a minute here. So how long have you been doing this?
So my first wedding on my own was April 1st, 2006. So
Wow.
that would mean in 2003. So what am I going into my 18th wedding season? What is don't make me do math. I don't wanna do it.
Well, yeah, I know. When I asked the question, I thought, oh crap, he's gonna have to do
Yeah.
math.
But I do
Um,
know that sometime last year I hit 400 weddings. I'm not sure which one
nice.
it was. Um, and I was on pace to do it the year before that, but COVID, of course, ruined that. But yeah,
Hmm.
about
Hmm.
400 weddings over
Nice. Nice.
17 years.
Yeah, 400 creative, unique, individual weddings.
Thank
So
you.
it's hard to do that.
And
Um,
it's funny, we joke about that. All weddings the weddings, there's a formula, right? But they're all different. You know,
mhm.
and certainly for the first few years, it was ceremony at 1 o'clock in a church, go take your photos, have a cocktail hour, get to the venue at 5 o'clock. It was a formula. And certainly these days, there's so many more options available. But even though there was a formula, the wedding formula, every single event was different and amazing in their own right. Like even though they kind of followed the same playbook, guys are here, girls here, they're all different and they're all amazing
Mhm.
because there's the way they look, the way they feel, all the emotions. It's just a big giant cake recipe of awesomeness that just
Cake recipe of
happens.
awesome. Wow. Wow, John. That's awesome. A couple more I want to show of yours before we move on. Gorgeous, happy couple, striding along the garden.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
Rosie and Matt, that was at Willisted. Just
Hmm.
the one thing I remember about that day was it was hot. Oh my
Yeah,
god, it was hot. It was like the last weekend in August.
nice. Yeah, Williston was a very popular spot for a lot of
Yep.
weddings. And it was, for a lot of photographers, it's hard to sort of recreate or do something they hadn't done there before because there's certain things like the staircase and the entrance and the
Right.
garden. So,
But you know what?
but
Like every photographer is really good at kind of finding their own way
style.
of doing it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Whether it's how they balance the light or they pose the couple. It's funny, like you can tell. I just saw on Instagram today somebody shot a photo on the staircase at Willisted, and I recognized the scene right away. But then as I took a closer look, it was uniquely that photographer's style. And you could tell, even though it's the same vibe, same look, like it was different. And and the thing of it is, just because I've shot something, 100 times or 50 times, it's the first time for that couple,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So, and that's the
Yeah.
important thing to do. And it's hard sometimes just to stay motivated for that couple who it's their first time at that venue, or it's their first time, so you rely on your muscle memory to get it right, but you still have
Hmm.
to dig into your creativity to get it right and get it different and make it awesome and
Yeah,
creative.
exactly. I think that you mentioned something that sort of tweaked on me is, a lot of wedding pros have a style or a perceived style.
Mhm.
And that's unfortunate because sometimes you get painted as only doing that style. Maybe someone you photographed, a bride's wedding, then her brother got married and they didn't call you to do his wedding because they didn't want the exact same thing. There's a lot
Right.
of that going on. But if you talk to your wedding pro, your wedding photographer, your cake maker, your officiant, and you say you did so and so's wedding, and I don't want any of that, I
Mhm.
think everyone in the industry is creative to say, I can make a complete left turn and do something entirely different because typically we are creative beings, and we've done enough of them. We know that we can do something different than what we've done before. So it's important to have that kind of conversation with your pros.
Yeah, it is. And I think, like, over the years, I've done families where I've done their siblings. In one family, I did all three sisters, and every wedding was a little bit different. They're all at different venues, and just, they're different. They're different people. They have different
Mm-hmm.
styles. But I've also not gotten siblings' weddings before because they didn't want what they thought might have been the same thing.
Right.
But I think you touched on something, and it's like style and consistency. Like, anybody who's seen my work over the last, 15 years knows what my style is. And if they want dark and moody, or like that, like the sepia tone or some sort of toning that, I just, that's not my style. And I have there's some amazing photographers that do that and do it so well. And I've tried doing that look, and it doesn't work with how I shoot. So I don't. And I want my photos to look natural and, timeless. So that in 5 years, 10 years, it doesn't look like it was shot, in 2022 or 23.
Absolutely.
But there is a place for that's over stylized look. So, because you do want to be able to look back and say, yeah, this is what things look like at that time, not unlike hairstyles or clothes, right? This is how we process photos. But so yeah, that is a little challenge for me at sometimes. I try to be consistent and always have I don't want to say a look, because people have been looking at my website, they see the work and they see themselves in that. And if I delivered a completely different look to them, I think that they would be disappointed. Like, this isn't what we thought we were getting. So it is a little bit of mixed bag, because you do want to kind of keep it fresh, keep it creative, but still deliver on a consistent vibe that you've been promoting.
Absolutely. Here's another one I want to show before we. I love this one here.
Oh, I love that couple, Steve and Vanessa. That's up at in Grand Bend at is it Oakwood?
Oakwood, yeah. Gorgeous spot too. Yeah. So, but it's great to see, the depth and breadth of what you do as well. So, quality photographer, a great person who knows what he's doing, who knows what he's able to do, knows his limitations and his style. So it's really important when you talk to a pro to have that kind of conversation. So well done, John. I want to bring on the next guest to have a little chit chat with us. And
this is where I wish, Doug, that we weren't virtual, that we were all together.
I know, right? Well, I agree. And, it's funny because this whole broadcast started 7 seasons ago because of COVID. And I had Wednesday nights free. And I thought, well, what am I going to do on a Wednesday night? And it gave me a reason really to drink on a Wednesday night and talk to people. Two of my favorite things. And it turned into this. And so this guest has been on before and has had me sample some of his skills, we'll say. And that person I'm talking about is Craig. And actually, Craig's wife is also going to join us, Lorianne. And he is from Memory Lane. And it is a beverage bartending service. And it's in a really cute I don't know if we call it a wagon or a trailer. I'm not a farm boy, but it's a really cool way to have a bartender show up at your wedding. So let's bring them in here. Craig, how you doing, buddy?
How you doing?
Good. I brought you in early. Well, I brought you in as fast as I could, mainly because I wanted to have a little toast, a little cheers, a little sippy sip. And John, I know you've got one. It's a margarita. And last week was National Margarita Day.
Yes, last Wednesday was the National Margarita Day.
So I'm a week late. That's not uncommon for me. But cheers to a margarita. A mighty good one too, by the way. So
just so you know, Doug, it's an old horse trailer.
Okay. I thought it looked like a horse trailer, but
I don't
know. It's a very cute wagon or trailer. I'm going to show pictures of it actually, so people know what we're talking about here. But how did this end up to be? How did you end up thinking, hey, Hey, Lorianne, let's buy a trailer, convert it into a bar, and let's pull this thing around town and do events and weddings and
Well,
corporate events. And
in all honesty, I'm going to let Lorianne explain that because it was Lorianne that said, "Hey, honey, let's buy a horse trailer." So this is my wife, Lorianne, and she's the
Hey,
brains of the
Lorianne.
operation.
Hi. Yes, it was me. I found this horse trailer and I said, I found this horse trailer. We're going to buy it. And he was like, what? Why? I said, well, we'll figure it out once we get it home. And then we got it home and we had to take it apart and we rebuilt it. Again, during COVID, boredom. Yeah, it all hit all at once. Needed something to do. And then we got thinking, wait a minute, I'm supposed to retire. So we need a project to do when I retire because I'll go stock raving mad.
Mhm.
So it turned into a mobile bar.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
So with my, like I said last year, you and I used to work at the Wheels years ago.
Yeah.
But I went on to manage, scooters and Red Barrel and all that. And Lorianne does some event planning. She's been doing event planning. She's an educational assistant in the school system and has done school graduations, family weddings, bridal showers, that type of stuff. And we happened to be over in Prague about 6 years ago. And when we were over in Prague, these things are huge over there. They run them as what they call gin bars, and they're all horse trailers. And we kind of got the idea from that. And when we come home, unfortunately, like Lorianne said, it wasn't just that it became a COVID project. It took us, almost 4 years just to find this style of horse horse trailer so that we can convert it. So we kind of got thinking, well, with my past experience in the bar business and her in the event planning, we kind of go down this road. And to be honest, it's proven to be very successful. I'm going to tell you guys a little secret. 3 weeks ago, we purchased our second trailer.
Nice.
And it will be going online hopefully by the 1st of June. And we're actually also in the market for a third trailer, which is going to be mainly geared towards large events, like large outdoor 5,000 participant events that we're hoping to pair up with all the local breweries with that one.
Nice.
Well, congratulations.
Thanks.
So speaking of breweries, there's a shot you sent me, this one here of you're at a that's a Land Shark beer booth beside you, and there's your wagon, your trailer, open to the guests. They can come up, they can get a drink or drinks, and away they go. It's easy peasy. Roll up and away you go.
Yeah, so that was our Mermaid and Mariner event last summer, and Land Shark was out in Port Lambton, and Land Shark was the main event sponsor for that. So we arranged, we pretty much did everything. We arranged all the SOP permits and all the liquor licensing and all the bartending and ticket sales and setting up the grounds for a of age service only. And if you look at the picture, you'll see there's a little platform on the front of the trailer that has the Land Shark tent and logo. Well, that platform we have as well, and it's a 10 by 10 platform, which allows us to do large events like this and extend the service. So we had everybody there, our complete staff. We got about 20 staff members that work for us. And we do everything from, in-house parties to large corporate events. So
very cool. I want to show a few more as well that we've got here. This is you don't just do alcoholic beverages. You can do non-alcoholic beverages. You can do like hot chocolates, hot beverages.
Yeah. So
wintertime events, stuff like that, right?
Yeah. So this event was actually at Glass House Nursery.
I'm
this
familiar.
year with their Festival of Trees event.
Mhm.
And at that event, we sold, it was completely non-alcoholic. We
Mhm.
sold hot chocolate, hot apple cider, coffee, tea, and it escapes me. There was other,
Non-alcoholic drinks, probably some
yeah.
mocktails, maybe.
Well, we actually
did do
yeah, that was the other thing we did on their Thursday night sponsored event.
Mhm.
We did run a bar for them where we offered both mocktails plus a regular bar. Again, using products that they've purchased through local vendors and so on and so forth as well. So
Nice. Speaking of mocktails are up. Recent survey up 70%. People are drinking more mocktails now than ever before.
Mhm.
You graciously sent over a pina colada mocktail for me, so good Lord, that's good. That is, you can taste the coconut in that. That is delish. I mean, could it use some rum?
well, we do.
But you can always add rum.
Yeah, we do use Liars, which is a non-alcoholic rum, and I don't know if you can see it there. So they call
Mhm.
it their white cane, and it smells and tastes just like rum, but there's no alcohol content in it. Liars is from Australia, and we have paired with them, and we use all the Liars products. They it is expensive, but on top of that, it tastes and gives the same aroma as an alcoholic version. We find that we've had great success with it. um, and it just seems to give an option to those people at events that they want to participate, but they just don't want to drink Coke, or they just don't want to drink, soft
Yeah,
drink or juice, right? So we can make a
absolutely.
whole host of mocktails for them.
And
Um,
is it called Liars for a reason?
yes, actually, you would think it was
John got it.
because of the alcohol, but it's not. Because of in Australia, there is a bird that will imitate the sounds of other birds.
Hmm.
So it's lying to you, and that's where they get the name from. I
I
actually
love that.
thought it would have been because you're lying about the alcohol, but it's not.
They may
So
have lied to you.
yeah, but when we did our research with the bar, we wanted something that would be good for our consumer. And what we found was Liars competes worldwide with the best distilleries, and they have come away with medals for all their products, competing against actual alcoholic products in the distillery. So, I mean, I don't know, what more you can have when you're competing against them, and the people that are the grand king poobahs of the alcohol industry are giving you awards and medals for it. So
That's cool. And it's got white cane, my favorite of all the canes.
yeah.
Um, so you make a lot of people very happy at these events. So I want to show this picture here. This is look at these folks. They're delighted that there's alcohol right there out in the backyard, or
Yeah.
'cause a lot of weddings, and John, I know you'll attest this as well, especially since during COVID and post COVID, and maybe it was headed that way before COVID, I don't know, but their backyards, beaches, and barns, right? That seems to be the
Yeah.
flavor of a lot of events. So it's ideal that you can just roll up, at a food truck. We had a food truck on here on our show a few weeks back, and you got a reception. Just add music, right? So
Yeah,
thank you.
and you're right about that. That one you just showed was a 40th birthday party for a young lady out in Amherstburg, and it's funny you say that, what you said, because she said, well, we're only going to have the service from 3 o'clock in the afternoon till 10 o'clock at night. Everybody will be gone by 10 o'clock at night. That picture was taken at about 8:30 at night. And when we packed up at 10 o'clock at night and we're leaving to pull out the driveway, it was a long country driveway to a house. Half the people were running behind us please don't go, don't go.
It's like the ice cream truck, right?
Yeah.
Or in John and
other
I's case, the margarita truck.
Yeah, the other bartender that was working the service with us, she was videotaping it. She says, "I never ever thought that in my wildest dreams." Right?
Yeah,
But it is where the industry is going. We are booked solid this year. That's why we brought on the second trailer. But it's not just weddings. I bet you 60% of our business is private parties and corporate events.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it's not just weddings, but I mean, we have the trailer set up today in a normal, and I'll say normal bar situation where we can do a keg service, any drink that you want. But normally we also have a slushy machine in here. My wife is the creator of the beer slushies that people have been talking about in and around town. We've been at Sons of Kent, and we've been at Red Barn for their events, and she has created a menu of beer slushies that seem to go over like hotcakes. So yeah, we will create anything. Our bartenders are all bartenders. We don't just go into an event where it's your standard rye and Coke or whatever. Our business is part of the International Bartenders Association, and every year we get the top 100 drinks worldwide, and we provide that menu to our staff and to the event organizers. And if they want to pick a special drink off that, we'll make that drink. Or if the alcohol has been purchased and we have whatever alcohol we have, if you pick a drink off that menu and we got it, we'll make her, baby.
Nice. Good. So you guys have been, and I've said this before about events, this is a wedding event sort of show or series of shows, but you take the wedding out, it's still an event, whether it's corporate. I mean, you can hire a bartender and a photographer for a birthday party. You can hire a bartender and a photographer for an anniversary, a celebration, a bar mitzvah, whatever you might want to have. So, I mean, just take the word wedding out. If you're not planning a wedding and you think, well, this isn't for me, this series is, doesn't suit. It does if you take the wedding out and think beyond that. So, you can pull the wagon into anywhere and provide service for them to enjoy. So, I want to talk about some wedding tips, because we've all been around the wedding industry, or event industry, if you prefer to look at it that way. So let's have a little session of some tips. So hang on 1 second. I have to give a little shout out to our sponsor you like that, don't you, John?
Yeah, I got the
catchy little tune. A big shout out to With This Ring. They are sponsoring this series, and they're sponsoring the tip portion. We are also creating a booklet that's downloadable towards the end of this series once you collect everyone's tips. Sort of your how-to guide for planning your day. So, John, do you have any? You've seen a ton of weddings, 400 plus. So, any tips for us?
Can I give you two?
Absolutely.
And maybe I'll come up with the third as I'm talking. One, and I really discovered the difference during COVID, but try to meet personally with your photographer, because obviously during COVID, I had never done a virtual meeting before, and then COVID hit, right? And then just about a month ago, I had my first in-person consultation in 3 years. Anyway, my tip. Meet with your photographer, and the work might be good. They might be, all the boxes are checking in terms of this is a great event, but if you can't vibe with the couple, or they don't trust you, or there's something off, it's just not going to be a great event. So try and meet with the couple, or make sure if you're the couple to meet with the photographer or any of your big vendors that are going to be with you, just to do a personality check to make sure, I can spend an entire day with this person. Because we're with you from quite often 10 in the morning till 10 at night, or sometimes even longer, right? So you better like us.
Mhm.
And number two, when you do meet with a photographer, ask to see a full wedding or two. See what they can deliver, what's their final deliverable, whether it's like all 6, 7, 8, 900 photos, whatever it is, ask to see them. Because right now, like, everybody's good, right? Like there's no bad photographers right now, right? Like there's the barrier to entry is so low. Everybody's good or good enough. And anybody can create those 1 or 2 iconic Instagram photos that just, go, oh wow, I want this person. And then they see the deliverables and it's just like, oh my gosh, they
Mhm.
missed a kiss, or they missed, grandpa, or they missed whatever. Make sure that you see everything. A wedding is more than those 1 or 2 iconic Instagram photos. It's the first look. It's the first time your parents see you. It's walking down the aisle. It's a series of 1 or 200 amazing moments all stitched together into a great story. So make sure the photographer is equipped to handle that and to visualize it and to see it and to deliver it back to you. So those are my 2 things.
That's awesome. Very true. Very, very true. Craig, anything, or Lorianne?
Well, I'm just going to start with, I'm going to give you 2 tips as well. The first one is, like you said, reach out to the professionals. In our industry, and it's an alcohol-based industry, liability is huge, huge.
Mm-hmm.
And as of November of last year, the Alcohol Gaming Commission of Ontario changed the requirements for Smart Serve. So anybody who received a Smart Serve certification before July 1st of 2018, their Smart Serve certification expires this year on July 1st of 2018. And they will be required to take a new course to recertify. And the reason for that is because of the legalization of marijuana. We have been a part of weddings this past summer where there was marijuana bars at the weddings as well as alcohol. And there is a huge liability component with that now in with the Smart Serve, and everybody has to have it. So for those people who think that doing these events on their own by bringing a person in who's Smart Served or a friend of the family, there is some huge liability, and understand what that liability is. That's one of the things that we take off your table when we come in as professionals. That's the
Nice.
first tip. The second tip, and I'm just going to reiterate what John said, meet with us, meet with your bartenders, understand what you want to have happen that evening, have your protocols in place. Like when we sit down with our clients, we tell them there are going to be people that get cut off. That's the nature of the business. How do you want us to handle that? How do you want us to cut them off? Who do you want us to tell? How do you want us to go about it? Just so that, it's not a big show. We don't want anything like that ruining your day or your event. So we want to have a game plan in place for that.
Smart. Very good. Excellent. Great tips. This is why you have wedding pros. This is why you have event pros, because they've seen a lot more than most humans have when it comes to events. So thank you guys both very much for that. I want everyone to realize that we'll be also having a roundtable coming up at the end of this series, where people can send their questions in and get some answers from all the different vendors and pros that have been on the show. So you guys have been great to talk with. Cocktails are always fun to have around the table for a talk. Any closing remarks you guys have that you want to share with people?
No, it's awesome to be here and chat with you, Doug. I've known you for, gosh, how long have I known you?
A long time.
25.
I had a lot more hair. You haven't lost any of yours, but I lost all.
No, but it's totally different color than it used to be.
Nordic white.
Nah, it's Nordic blonde. Rebranding.
Nordic blonde.
Nordic
Yes.
blonde.
Nordic blonde. Yes.
Yeah. No, thank you. I really appreciate this. It's great to get on and talk wedding business with y'all.
Yeah. Well, it's people are and rightfully so, a little gun show when it comes to planning a wedding. They've never done it before. And whether they want something that's grand or very small, and nonetheless, planning has to happen. It just doesn't fall into place. So, getting a photographer in place, getting a bar in place, getting an officiant in place, and having them all sort of singing on the same page is extremely important so that you have that continuity. So you should share the notes with your officiant, that you share with your photographer, that you share with your bar, so they have an idea of exactly what the theme is. Because I know for me, being front and center, if they ask me to dress in a certain way, I do so. And I'm sure that Craig and his team would also dress a certain way. Now, John, there's nothing wrong with the way you dress, but I realize a lot of photographers like to be in black, try to not be noticeable. They're, in the background, and that's for a reason. But I'm sure if we asked you to wear, a hula skirt and those coconut bra, you'd wear that too.
If the theme of the wedding supported me in a coconut bra, I would definitely do it.
Because you're a good man.
It's orders are orders.
Unfortunately,
orders are orders. The customer's always right.
It ends up that way.
At some point, yeah. So, excellent, guys. I'm going to say goodbye to these fine folks. I'll be right back to find you. 1 second. So there you have it. Episode 5, season 7, the 5th portion of our wedding series, the Expo for the pros. There's more coming. We have other pros we're talking to in the next few weeks, and look for our roundtable coming up at the conclusion of this before we get back to our regular talks. So until then, be well and have a great wedding.